In 1951, the British started their push to the summit of Mount Everest from the Nepali side using the same basic strategy as the 1920s. That is, perform a reconnaissance first before attempting to reach the summit. The 1951 reconnaissance was led by Eric Shipton and had Edmund Hillary as one of the lead climbers. Although the expedition was successful in outlining the route that would eventually be taken by Hillary and Tenzing to the summit, it is perhaps best known for Shipton's photographs of what he claimed were Yeti tracks. Upon Shipton's return, newspapers ran a story about finding the footprints, noting the Yeti has been described as half man, half beast, about 5 foot 6 inches tall, covered with reddish-brown hair, but with a hairless face. Of course, stories of the Yeti had long been told by locals to gullible Westerners willing to pay to be taken to the latest Yeti tracks or pay to see the Yeti skull. When Odell returned to Everest in 1938, he was surprised to find the cairn they had built to Mallory and Irvin and the rest of the dead from the early expeditions was nowhere to be found. When he asked the monks at Rongbuk Monastery about it, they said that perhaps a Yeti had destroyed it, while they laughed. Odell was surprised and noted that this indicated a disbelief in the existence of the abominable snowman. However, not wanting to give up such a lucrative economic opportunity to continue to get money from gullible Westerners, the monks reassured them that the Yeti did indeed exist. Who else would have destroyed their cairn? As it turns out, the locals were not that fond of Mallory and the early British expeditions, most likely because of the deaths of so many porters that were killed by Mallory's obsession. When I was there in 2013, I inquired whether there was a memorial plaque to Mallory and Irvin, as there are to various other climbers. The first Sherpa said, yes, go to the camp on the far side of the moraine and ask for Lakpa. He will show you the location. Walking about 10 minutes to the other side and asking, I was told the location was indeed not close to that camp, but if I went to the other side of the camp diagonally, their Sherpa Pemba would show me the location. After a couple more inquiries such as this, my Yeti senses told me the Sherpas were playing a little joke at my expense. And most of the so-called Yeti stories are likely similar jokes. However, in the case of the 1951 footprints, it appears that Shipton was in on it. In the book, Everest, the Best Writings and Pictures from 70 Years of Human Endeavor, edited by Peter Gilman, it is strongly implied that the entire thing was a hoax perpetrated by Shipton. For anyone interested in an excellent photo history of Mount Everest, I highly recommend that book. However, it does contain a photograph of Maurice Wilson's remains that I found distasteful. The book was published in 1993, and thus the display of the photos of Mallory's body was not completely unprecedented, as there was no outcry about the display of Wilson's remains, though they hardly received the same attention. In any case, back to the Yeti. Even Edmund Hillary thought the footprints might have been a hoax, and Shipton himself is quoted as saying that the footprints had, quote, aroused a certain amount of public excitement, and noted that it was interesting and perhaps a little sad that the British Museum appears to have taken the matter more seriously than Society for Psychical Research. Of course, Yeti are popular museum exhibits, and if there is one thing Yeti are good at, it is making money. Even a laundry service in England got in on the Yeti popularity by taking out an ad stating that no Yeti would be encountered if you used their facility. And while all this is rather interesting, it is perhaps a little sad that little has changed in the last 70 years. In a recent book, Yeti, The Ecology of a Mystery, the author, Danielle Taylor, again looks at Shipton's footprints without any analysis at all as to whether the entire thing was a fake. In Gilman's book, it was noted, the skeptics suspect, in short, that Shipton fabricated the crucial 1951 print. There is a line of prints in the snow that day, made by a conventional animal such as a goat. By the skeptic's theory, Shipton embellished one of those prints, adding the thumb-like big toe and etching the outline of the heel. When asked about this, Shipton first evaded the issue and eventually stated the photographs had been wrongly captioned by the Times, although he never explains what the correct caption should have been. The book also noted that Shipton would generally tell tall tales of his expeditions, noting that Odell, when collecting rock samples, had mistaken them for sandwiches on account of the altitude, a story denied by Odell. Shipton also claimed to have found a sex diary left by Maurice Wilson, a story that also proved to be untrue. Of course, anyone who has been bitten by a radioactive Yeti can easily see the ruse of the footprints. Although there is allegedly a long track of footprints, only one such print is photographed up close. And although 2 up-close photographs are taken of the single print, no photographs of the other allegedly similar prints were ever taken. And sadly, the same situation presents itself in the so-called mystery of Mallory and Irvin. We have an ever-moving oxygen bottle that, when asked why the location is shown in the books Ghost of Everest and Detectives on Everest were both wrong, we are told essentially that the captions of the photos were simply incorrect, with no explanation as to why. And more recently, we've been told that Mallory showed no signs of frostbite when photos of the body show his hands are blackened, which is a typical sign of frostbite. I will not show the photos here, but we'll link to them in the description for the curious. What this tells us is that ever since humans climbed down from the trees and started climbing mountains, they have been telling tall tales of their adventures. However, going forward, I will outline why the truth of what you find there is far more interesting than the fiction.